Here's the thing about Social Security. 62 is the age where the government basically sets a trap, and 2/3 of Americans walk straight into it. Or maybe they don't. Maybe the trap is actually waiting. That's the uncomfortable part. Every financial advisor has an opinion. Every Reddit thread has a hot take. And the Social Security Administration itself, at one point, had a calculator on their website to help you decide, and then they removed it because people were using it wrong. Think about that for a second. The government built a tool to help citizens make one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives. Watch them systematically misuse it and said, you know what? Let's just get rid of the tool. Classic. So today, I'm going to show you the 7 legitimate reasons why filing for Social Security at 62 actually makes sense. Not because it's always right, but because the math is way more complicated than anyone's telling you. I'm going to explain how the real decision works, why the standard wait until 70 advice might be costing some of you money, and why your life expectancy, your spouse, your portfolio, and even the stock market all have a seat at this table. This is the video I wish existed before I spent hours going through actuarial tables and Social Security filing strategies. And yes, apparently there are 700 of them. By the way, I built a free early retirement calculator because most online ones are mathematically wrong. They miss key variables that BlackRock and Vanguard actually use in their modeling. It uses that same logic to expose the weak points in your plan. And I only ask for your email to send the report, so I don't store any of your financial data. Link in the description. Now, let me give you the central metaphor I'm going to use throughout this whole video because it's going to make everything click. Think of Social Security like a faucet. You've got a pipe in the wall. That pipe is pressurizing. Every year you wait, the pressure builds, and when you open the faucet, the water flows faster and harder. If you wait until 70, you've got maximum pressure. But here's the thing, the faucet is yours. You paid for it your whole working life. And if you wait too long before turning it on, some of that water just stays in the pipe. You never drink it, it evaporates, nobody refunds you the pressure. The whole debate around Social Security timing is essentially, when do you open the faucet? And the answer that most financial planners give you, wait, delay, be patient, ignores the fact that some people have legitimate reasons to open it early. 7 of them, actually. Let's build the model first, so you know what you're actually working with. I'm going to use a fictional character, call him Professor Pat. Pat earned $90,000 in his final working year, which is roughly half the current Social Security wage cap. That's a realistic upper middle class income. Pat has 3 choices. He can file at 62 and collect about $2,238 per month. He can wait until his full retirement age, which for most of you watching this is 67, and collect around $3,198 per month. Or he can delay all the way to 70 and get $3,966 a month. Now, the classic break-even analysis says, figure out which scenario puts more total dollars in your pocket by the time you die. Simple math, right? File early and get lower payments for longer, or file late and get bigger payments for fewer years. The crossover point, the break-even, is somewhere around your early 80s. And this is where it gets really interesting. The Social Security Administration actually assumed an average life expectancy of around 84 years for someone who has already reached age 62, not 79. 79 is average at birth. If you've made it to 62 without a major health catastrophe, the actuarial tables say you've probably got about 22 more years. That's 84. So if Pat lives to 84 and files at 62 with 0 cost of living adjustments, he collects roughly $615,000 total. If he waits until 67, he gets more per month, but has fewer months, and he ends up with less overall. Filing early wins by about $72,000, but you might be thinking, okay, so just file at 62 and you're done? Not so fast. Change the life expectancy assumption by just 3 years. Drop it from 84 to 81 and suddenly filing at full retirement age is the better play. Drop it 6 years to 78. And filing at 62 versus 67 is almost exactly the same. The optimal strategy in that reduced life expectancy scenario is actually filing at 65, right in the middle. You think the problem is early versus late, but actually the problem is that you don't know when you're going to die. Nobody does. And that uncertainty is the whole game. Now let's talk about something nobody mentions in the basic break-even analysis, the cost of living adjustment, the COLA. In the traditional break-even model, people set COLA to 0. But every year, Social Security benefits are adjusted for inflation. And here's the compounding kicker. If your base benefit is larger because you delayed, your COLA increases are also larger. It's the exact same logic as compound interest. A 3% increase on $3,966 is a very different number than 3% on $2,238. Over a lifetime, that gap becomes enormous. Add realistic COLA assumptions back into the model, and suddenly delaying to 70 versus filing at 62 is a $246,000 difference. Not $70,000, $246,000. That's a different decision. By the way, hit subscribe if you like the content. Otherwise, YouTube's algorithm may never show you my videos again. So with all that context set, let's go through the 7 situations where filing at 62 actually makes logical, defensible, non-emotional sense. Reason 1, your health is genuinely bad, or your family history is terrible. This is the most obvious one, but people still feel weird saying it out loud. If your father died at 73, and your grandfather died at 71, and you've already had one cardiac event, the break-even math shifts dramatically. Waiting for a higher monthly payment doesn't help you if you're not alive to collect enough of it. Filing early ensures you actually extract value from a system you paid into for decades. The faucet analogy lands perfectly here. If your pipe is leaking, you open the faucet now. Reason 2, you want to enjoy your retirement while you're physically capable. This one gets dismissed as emotional reasoning, but it's actually rational. There's substantial evidence that spending patterns in retirement follow a predictable curve. High in the early go-go years, lower in the middle slow-go years, and very low in the final no-go years. The money you have at 63 is not the same as the money you have at 79, even if the dollar amounts are identical, because your ability to enjoy it is not the same. I heard a story once about a man who spent his entire career delaying gratification, waiting for the right moment, the better salary, the bigger portfolio. He retired at 72 with more money than he'd ever imagined. He spent the first 2 years of retirement attending medical appointments. By the time he had real freedom, he couldn't do half the things he'd planned. The money was there, the life wasn't. That's not a math problem. That's a timing problem. Reason 3, your spouse can unlock spousal benefits when you file. Here's a coordination play that most people completely ignore. If your spouse didn't work long enough to qualify for their own substantial Social Security benefit, or if their benefit is significantly lower than yours, they may be eligible for spousal benefits equal to up to 50% of your full retirement age benefit. But they can't access those spousal benefits until you file. Filing at 62 unlocks that income stream for your household sooner. If there's a large earnings disparity between you and your spouse, this can be a significant household income boost that changes the entire calculus. Imagine 2 people at the retirement planning office. Advisor says to the higher earner, you should delay until 70. Higher earner nods. Nobody mentions that their spouse has been sitting at home for 20 years with a minimal work record and 0 individual benefit. That household just left years of spousal income on the table. Classic. Reason 4, your spouse has a terminal or serious health diagnosis and a high benefit amount. This is the most counterintuitive one, and in my view, the most financially important. Here's how it works. If your spouse is the higher earner and has a serious health condition, their expected lifespan may be shorter than average. When they die, you as the surviving spouse inherit their benefit, the survivor benefit. So the strategy becomes file for your own benefit at 62 now, collect your smaller amount while your spouse is alive, and then when your spouse passes, you switch to their larger survivor benefit. You essentially double dip in the best possible way. You collect something rather than nothing during the period while your spouse is alive, and then you transition to the bigger faucet when the time comes. This is the single scenario where I think early filing is the most logically sound choice, regardless of most other factors. Reason 5, the stock market just crashed. This one is genuinely underrated, and almost nobody talks about it outside of academic Social Security research. If you're drawing down your investment portfolio in retirement and the market drops 40 or 50%, Think about what happened during the financial crisis. Think about the dot-com collapse. Selling your assets at a 50% loss to cover living expenses is brutal. It destroys your ability to recover. But if you turn on Social Security early, you create a guaranteed income floor. You stop liquidating assets at depressed prices. You give your portfolio time to recover. Filing early during a market crash isn't weakness. It's a hedge. The faucet becomes a pressure release valve for your investment portfolio. And here's the flip side of that same coin. If you haven't started drawing down your portfolio yet and the market collapses, you could turn on Social Security and take that monthly income directly into discounted equities. You're buying when everyone else is panic selling, funded by guaranteed government income. That's not a crazy strategy. That's actually the kind of move that looks obvious in hindsight. Financial advisor on the phone. Now is not the time to make emotional decisions. You filing for Social Security and buying index funds at 60 cents on the dollar. Reason 6, taxes. Specifically, provisional income and the tax torpedo. Right now, up to 85% of your Social Security benefit can be taxed if your income exceeds certain thresholds. But here's the planning angle. If you're currently in a low income period, maybe you're between jobs, maybe you've already retired, but your required minimum distributions haven't kicked in yet, your Social Security income right now might be taxed very lightly or not at all. After age 73, you're required to take minimum distributions from your traditional retirement accounts. Those distributions increase your taxable income. If your Social Security is already running by then, you've collected years of lower tax income before the RMD flood hits. Filing early, in some cases, is a tax management move. Reason 7, you simply need the money. And I'm going to say this without any condescension because this applies to more people than want to admit it. Life doesn't always follow the plan. Medical bills happen, businesses fail, pensions disappear, family members need support. Social Security exists as a foundational safety net. And if you need it, using it is not a failure, it's the entire point of the system. Now, let me make all of this concrete with a real number scenario. Take a woman I'll call Sandra. She's 62, recently retired, married to a husband who's 65 with a higher Social Security benefit, but also a serious heart condition. Sandra's benefit at 62 is $2,100 per month. Her husband's benefit at his full retirement age will be $3,600 per month. If Sandra waits until 67, her benefit increases to about $2,900. That's $800 more per month. Sounds great, but her husband passes away at 69. If she'd waited to file, she would have collected zero of her own benefit for 7 years, then switched to his survivor benefit anyway. Instead, by filing at 62, she collected approximately $176,000 in her own benefits over those 7 years before switching to his survivor check. That's $176,000 she would have left completely uncollected. The faucet was available. She just had to turn it on. Now, to be fair, there are plenty of scenarios where delaying makes more sense. If you're in perfect health, have robust savings, no pension income, and your spouse also has a high benefit, waiting to 70 can produce dramatically better lifetime outcomes. The $246,000 gap I mentioned earlier is real. And if your investment portfolio isn't earning more than roughly 8% annually, which is the approximate return equivalent of delaying Social Security, then delaying is essentially a guaranteed 8% return on deferred benefits. That's hard to beat. Now you're asking yourself, so what's the actual answer? File early or delay? And that's exactly the wrong question. The right question is, which of these 7 conditions apply to your life right now? Because this isn't a generic optimization problem. It's a personal financial decision with hundreds of variables. And the break-even calculator, the very one the Social Security Administration deleted from their own website, was never meant to be the whole answer. The financial planning industry has a structural incentive to tell you to delay. Advisors who manage your assets earn fees based on portfolio size. If you draw Social Security early, you spend less of your portfolio, which means their fee base stays larger for longer. I'm not saying that's corrupt. I'm saying that's an incentive, and you should know about it. Lazy investing built more fortune than crypto memes, but it also requires you to understand what game you're actually playing. 3 practical takeaways. First, Run the break-even analysis, but change your life expectancy assumption by plus or minus 3 and 6 years, and watch how much the numbers shift. If your optimal strategy flips completely with a small change, that tells you the margin for error is thin and you need more information before deciding. Second, if you have a spouse, do not analyze Social Security in isolation. Model your combined household benefits, including spousal benefits and survivor benefits, as a coordinated strategy. Filing decisions for one partner directly affect the other. Third, if you're in a market downturn, in a low-income year, or facing a health crisis in the family, those are the exact moments to reconsider your filing timeline, not your original plan made in calm waters years ago. The Social Security Administration removed the break-even calculator because people were treating a starting point as a final answer. Don't be that person.